Welcome back, everyone. Today, we've got a truly fascinating explainer lined up for you. We are looking at a machine that has been highly anticipated and is making some serious waves right now, the Royal Enfield Flying Flea C6. Look, this isn't just a new motorcycle. It represents a monumental pivot for one of the most iconic legacy brands on the planet. I mean, they are taking a massive electric gamble here. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is the fundamental question we have to ask today. Can a 124-year-old company, a brand built literally entirely on the thumping, heavy internal combustion engine heritage of classic cruisers, successfully pivot and disrupt the ultra-modern, tech-focused electric vehicle space? It's a huge challenge, and honestly, how they've chosen to answer it is nothing short of fascinating. And funny enough, 124 is a very important number for the bike itself too, but for a completely different reason. That is the curb weight of the Flying Flea C6 in kilograms. To put that into perspective, 124 kilograms, or roughly 273 pounds, is incredibly light. It immediately establishes that this machine is nimble, eager, and just a massive departure from those heavy traditional cruisers Royal Enfield is known for. It's going to be super easy to flick around the city, which is exactly where it's meant to live. Section 1. A historic electric leap. The WW2 paratrooper roots. Now, to really understand this bike, we have to look at where its roots lie. The Flying Flea C6 is heavily inspired by a 1930s World War II paratrooper aesthetic. Royal Enfield basically took its lightweight military namesake and completely reimagined it for the 21st century. It keeps things minimal, exposed, and purposefully rugged. But before we get into the cool tech, let's talk about how they're selling it, because their pricing strategy is actually really clever. If you buy the bike standard, it's 2.79 lakh rupees, which is definitely on the premium end, for sure. However, they are offering a battery as a service or BaaS model, and that manages to drop the entry price all the way down to 1.99 lakh. It's a super smart way to lower the barrier to entry for riders who might be a bit hesitant about the steep upfront cost of an EV. Section 2. Tech meets retro design. The premium hardware. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of the Flying Flea. It's colliding old-school mechanical aesthetics with cutting-edge technology. Just look at these physical design choices. You've got this forged aluminum girder fork at the front that handles rough patches while being an absolute attention grabber. Then there's the exposed chassis with a gorgeous floating seat, a lightweight magnesium battery casing, and these 19-inch alloy wheels wrapped in slim tires to keep the whole thing super agile. The fit and finish here, right down to the switchgear, make this one of the most premium-feeling Royal Enfields to date. It is highly tactile. But underneath that retro skin, oh, it is packed with tech. I mean, just fire off this list. A 3.5-inch circular touchscreen TFT with Google-powered navigation, Bluetooth, and 4G for over-the-air updates. There's no physical key at all. You just use a passcode or your smartphone. It boasts traction control, cornering ABS, multiple ride modes, a reverse mode, hill hold, and even wireless phone charging. It is literally a seriously tech-heavy machine that is just cleverly disguised as a vintage runabout. Moving on to Section 3, beneath the floating seat. Let's look at those powertrain specs. So what is actually driving all of this? 3.91 kilowatt hours. That is the battery capacity hidden away right beneath that floating seat. Now, by electric motorcycle standards, you might be thinking that's a relatively small battery, but actually, that's the secret sauce here. Keeping the battery small is exactly how Royal Enfield kept the weight down to that nimble 124 kilograms, and it's how they managed to keep the cost in check. And paired with that battery, we've got a 15.4 kilowatt permanent magnet motor pushing out 60 newton meters of torque. For a bike this light, those are fantastic numbers. I mean, it launches from 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in just 3.7 seconds, and it tops out at 115 kilometers per hour. If you throw this thing into sport mode, it delivers a proper punch. It is remarkably quick, eager, and perfectly tailored to be a highly capable city commuter. Section 4. The real-world range, expectation versus reality. Now, what's really interesting about this next point is the range, because when you have a small battery, range is always going to be the elephant in the room, right? This brings us to the single most debated topic of this entire launch. On paper, Royal Enfield is advertising a claimed ID range of 154 kilometers per charge. If that were true in everyday riding, it would sound incredibly impressive for a 3.91 kilowatt-hour pack, but we really need to look at how that number is calculated. The publication Electric provided a fantastic reality check on this. They noted, that figure works out to extremely low energy consumption. In the real world, many electric bicycles in the US don't achieve that level of efficiency.
And they hit the nail on the head there. The EIDC cycle basically represents idealized testing conditions at low, steady speeds. It's just not how people normally ride.
So, what should you actually expect? Well, the real-world reality is much closer to 60 to 70 kilometers per charge. When you ride it the way people actually ride, accelerating briskly to use that 3.7-second 0 to 60 time, dealing with stop-and-go traffic, that headline number drops significantly. Now, this doesn't make it a bad bike at all. It just confirms that it is strictly an urban runabout. It's not a long-distance tour.
Which naturally brings us to the charging routine. Because it's an urban bike, the routine is actually quite simple and, frankly, a bit boring, which is exactly what you want from a commuter. The recommended habit is to just plug it into a standard AC wall box when you get home at around 30% battery, set your daily charge ceiling to 80% to keep the battery nice and healthy, and just wake up to a full charge. Going from completely empty to 100% takes about 5 hours on standard AC. Crucially, the bike only supports AC charging. It lacks DC fast charging, so overnight home charging is for sure the way you will live with this machine.
Section 5. The Market Battle. Ola v. Royal Enfield. Let's look at how this stacks up against the competition in the Indian market, which, remember, is currently the largest motorcycle market in the world. Take a look at this comparison with the Ola Roadster Pro. If you just look at the raw specs, the Ola seems to absolutely crush it. It has double the battery at 8 kilowatt hours and a massive 316 kilometers of claimed range, all for roughly the exact same price as the Flea's BAAS model, around 2 lakh rupees. But wait, look at the user ratings. Based on initial surveys, the Ola scores a 2.5 out of 5 for user comfort and features. Meanwhile, the Royal Enfield scores a perfect 5 out of 5. The Ola might win the spec sheet war, but the Royal Enfield utterly destroys it when it comes to premium comfort, tactile feel, and high-end features.
Section 6. Royal Enfield's strategic bet. A shift in focus.
Let's zoom out and see how this builds into the overarching strategy for the brand. Because the Flying Flea isn't just a single product, it's a statement of intent. Up until now, EV adoption in India has been massively dominated by everyday scooters. By introducing the Flying Flea, Royal Enfield is attempting a massive cultural shift. They're trying to move the electric focus away from utilitarian scooters and toward premium, lifestyle motorcycles.
And this quote from Eicher Motors managing director Siddhartha Lal perfectly anchors this whole narrative. He stated, "We are not trend followers. We are working on a completely different paradigm on EVs. Our focus is on making a gorgeous and disruptive motorcycle." They are purposefully ignoring the spec war. They aren't trying to build the bike with the biggest battery or the longest range. They're building a gorgeous, premium lifestyle object packed with heritage appeal.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Can premium heritage styling and a flawless user experience conquer the electric future, even with a distinctly limited range? Look, the Flying Flea C6 is a beautiful, tech-loaded, and thrilling city commuter. But its ultimate test will be whether real-world riders are willing to trade on-paper specs for unmistakable character. Thanks for learning with us today, and we'll see you in the next explainer.